Too many people in real estate think that they have to use their own cash. Guys, I didn't use any of my own cash to flip a house for like the first 8 years of doing flipping. You can do it too. A lot of people think, oh, Tiffany, it's because you know people with money. No, I didn't. Most real estate investors think they have a lead problem, when really, they're just stuck in a stage of the business that they don't understand. So in today's video, I'm gonna break down the 5 stages of a real estate business from survival mode all the way to what I call option freedom. If you're new here, I'm Tiffany High. I'm the co-founder of Heels Homes and Results Driven REI alongside my wonderful husband and business partner, Josh High. And after experiencing well over 2,000 real estate transactions and coaching over 5,000 students nationwide, I can confidently say that we have made every mistake there is to make out there. And now we help investors just like you avoid them so that you can live in what I call option freedom. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with whoever the hell you want. So let's go. Let's start with the one where we all get started in the business. Stage 1, survival. And it doesn't matter if you're in stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everyone starts here. And this is where we're like a 1 to 2 man show. Whether you're working with a spouse, a business partner, a virtual assistant, this is where we are literally putting out fires all day. We're wearing every hat in the business. So we're the acquisitions rep, we're the dispo manager, we're the transaction coordinator, we're the admin, the inspector. We do our own QuickBooks if you're even doing your own books. And which means that we're typically overwhelmed, working long hours. So most people leave their job thinking they want to get into real estate to have time freedom or more money. And then they get in and they're in stage 1 and they realize, oh shit, I actually have a really expensive job now that actually I work twice as much. Most people in this stage, they're relying on say 1 to 2 marketing channels. Their lead flow is typically inconsistent. They're still kind of learning the ins and outs of the business. And so they tend to always be on the chase. They're always chasing the next deal. And what happens is they take a seller call and then they're the transaction coordinator. So if they lock up the deal, they get off the phone. And what happens when you do that is you stop everything in the business on revenue generating items to then go transact this deal to the finish line. Now, what happens is we live on a roller coaster in this stage because we're wearing too many hats. So we're up and down all the time. Sometimes we're having crush it weeks and months, and then sometimes we're really slow, and it gives us anxiety attacks. At least it did me when I first got started. So typically in this stage, you're doing anywhere from like 0 to 2 or 3 deals a month. You're relying on 1 or 2 marketing channels. You probably don't even know how to do QuickBooks yet, and if you do, you're barely keeping up with it. And ultimately, you feel like you can't breathe. So in order to get out of this stage, 2 things have to happen. Before I even get to those 2 things, the next few stages, what happens is someone in this first stage of the business, they try to skip 2 stages and think they can scale a business. Guys, we can't scale anything without infrastructure, skill sets, and people, okay? So in order to graduate to stage 2, what I call production, we have to do 2 things. We have to master the acquisition system from A to Z. And unfortunately, a lot of people in our industry think that acquisitions is getting handed a script, a phone, calling, and the pressure to perform, but that is not the case. An acquisitions process includes onboarding from videos, quizzes, assessments, flashcards, no different than if you're from a corporate job, if you're listening to this and maybe you've been onboarded into a role. From there, we have to learn our seller psychology behind the scripts. We have to learn how to listen to our call reviews, how to audit things, track KPIs and acquisitions, right? Because acquisitions is the #1 thing that drives revenue. And unless we drive revenue, we'll never get past stage 1. So we have to focus on acquisitions first. And that's even before marketing, in my personal opinion, because why go light money on fire if we get leads and then we can't convert them? So let's master acquisitions before we go invest a bunch of money in marketing. Once we as in you, master acquisitions, then we can hire a closer, right? Because I don't know about you, but when I first got started in the business, I used to be like at the dinner table, and if a seller called, I didn't have a team. So guess who had to get up and answer that call, right? Because why would you go spend money on leads and not pick up the phone, right? Because you'll just blow the money. And so I doubt any of you watching this got into real estate so that you were sitting at dinner with your family at 8 p.m. and had to take a call. We get into real estate so that we can do what we want with who we want when we want, not wear every hat. So Master acquisitions. After we master acquisitions, in order to get to stage 2, we have to hire a closer or a follow-up specialist, somebody to be sole focused on deal flow. Why do we need to do that? Because if one person isn't sole focused on always getting deal flow, then we're always going to be on this roller coaster ride where we're up and crushing it for a week or 2 or a month, and then we're slow or stagnant. And so we need to have someone sole focused on revenue. And before you move on to stage 2, we need to make sure that you have that acquisitions onboarding. And if you don't have it, don't worry about it. I've already built it. I'm gonna make sure that someone on my team drops it in the show notes. We'll make sure we have a link to what? We have a hiring guide SOP internally. It's exactly how we recruit, onboard, train, manage, and pay a closer. So look for the show notes. I'll make sure that it's in there for you. Now, let's move on to production, right? Because in this stage, you just listen to all that stuff that's gonna be in the hiring guide, and we got a good closer or a setter, follow-up specialist, everyone calls us something different in the industry. And we've now moved on to production. This is where we're now managing someone who's on the phones, right? But we're still wearing lots of hats, okay? So we do feel some level of relief because deals are consistently coming in. And I don't know about you, but that gave me like the confidence to keep rolling with things, because when you're in survival, I get it. We're kind of defeated every other day. We're like going to work, we want to crush it. By the end of the day, we're like, this sucks. So we're still wearing a lot of hats here, and we still can't always step away from the business because you might still also be on the phones with alongside your closer. So it's a small team. And in this stage, we're going to start making sure our CRM is cleaned up. We're doing better at tracking, putting KPIs in place, and delegating what I call non-income producing tasks. Now, a lot of times investors in the industry think they have to hire these full-time people to do transaction coordinating or inspections, right? Because let's be honest, I want you to do a time study and write for 1 week how many hours a day are you spending on transaction coordinating and inspections if you're the one still going out to the house and taking photos and all that. My guess is most people in survival are anywhere from like 5 to 10 hours a week minimum. Let's just hypothetically say it's $15,000, okay? That's pretty average across the country. My guess is if you spent that 5 to 10 hours a week, so that's another 40 hours a month that you'll put back into you being on the phones by just delegating those 2 tasks, right? You'll likely get at least 1 more deal a month, right? So you don't need full-time people for those non-income producing tasks. And if you've never hired virtual inspectors or followed a process, don't worry, we have that whole thing built. I'll try to make sure that the team drops like the SOP on exactly how you hire a virtual inspector, get them to go out to the property, take the photos, do an inspection report, and quite frankly, you'll be able to dispo those deals for a much higher price by allowing an expert to do it versus you. And by the way, there's also transaction coordinating companies out there that you can then delegate and pay by the transaction. And I have a little trick with that, by the way, because some people are like, oh, I don't know if I can afford it. In your assignment, you can put the seller, mine is Heels Homes, so you would put your company name in the assignment. Heels Homes charges an additional, whatever you want to make it, anywhere from $500 to $1,000. Let's just say $695 transaction coordinating fee at the time of closing. Guys, that alone will be a fee that allows you to break even outsourcing the transaction coordinating. So why would we do something when I can make money on it or get it for free for someone else to do it, right? These are little things that once we get enough deal flow, we can go hire those people full time. But in this stage, people get stuck thinking that they don't have the resources to delegate it, but you do. So again, in this stage, we need to delegate the things that don't make money and let the experts do it. Transaction coordinating, I highly recommend. Inspections, highly recommend. And by the way, let's talk a little mindset for a minute. Have you guys ever read the book E-Myth by Michael Gerber? Because if you haven't, you should. And he has this triangle, right? And on the bottom, we all start as what we call a technician. And then we move up to becoming the manager. And in this stage, we have to become the manager. And then we become the entrepreneur. Now let's talk about the technician for a minute. This person does everything. That's from survival mode, right? You're doing every hat. And most people in that stage, they have what they call a cost-based thinking. And I always say, better questions get you better results, right? And so when I go to events and I speak across the country, I have people that come up and I'll be talking about a marketing channel. And they'll say, well, what's the cost of that? Well, an entrepreneur says, what's the return on that I can expect? So then I'll know how much money I'm going to go spend. 2 different ways of thinking. When you're always cost-based thinking, you live in fear. and it holds you back from getting you to where you want to be. So as we start to grow the business, we have to start thinking, well, what's the return I'm going to get on this? Reverse engineer it and make the decision on the investment. And before we get to the next stage, which I call stage 3, which is momentum, we have to do a few things. We delegate inspections, we delegate transaction coordinating to external services if you cannot afford it internally yet. The reason why I always say you want to continue to at least have a couple people in acquisitions no matter what is because let's say someone gets sick, they get hurt, they move, they get married, something happens. It's an insurance policy to have the next man up. Plus, you are never going to get off the phones if you only have one person in acquisitions. Okay, and we want to get you off the phones so that you can manage the operation and leverage systems, people, and processes so that you can go on vacation and actually enjoy it. And in this stage, I highly recommend that you get educated on more than one exit strategy. So what do I mean by that? Let's say you're a wholesaler and you only know how to wholesale. Or maybe you're a flipper and you only know how to flip. When we pay for marketing, we want to make sure that any seller that says, I want to sell, can be monetized, right? So if we're only a flipper, you might only take deals down that you think works for you. But what a lot of flippers don't realize is there's 6 major buyer types out there. And once you learn those 6 major buyer types, you will then understand that just because it's not a deal for you doesn't mean it's not a deal for someone else. So why would we walk away from the $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 that person will take for assigning the contract? So you might not master that second exit strategy in this stage, but you at least have to start the process of getting educated, right? I call this learn, do, become. If you want this result up here, it starts with getting educated. Learn how to do it first. The second step is we then do what we learn. And then most people skip the third step and they forget that you have to become the person now that deserves the result because the old version of you has to die in order to get this result. If you don't know how to do that, don't worry. We teach all of that in our community. I'll make sure I put it in the description. Again, let's repeat this. Delegate transaction coordinating, delegate inspections to professionals. I'll make sure I drop it in the description if you don't know how to do that. And then we got to start getting educated on the next exit strategy as we continue to build out acquisitions, right? So stage 3 we call momentum. So let's now move into momentum, assuming that you did all of those things. Momentum is where we are at leverage. We are now the manager of the operation. So we're managing people every day, processes, systems. So we're no longer on the phones, okay? Our team is locking up the deals. This stage is exciting because we finally feel like a legitimate business owner. And the team is the one doing most of the work. Now, you're still managing them, right? You're still taking scorecards, managing them based on the numbers. You're still onboarding, you're training, you're managing all the moving pieces. And we're trying to keep everyone aligned. And here's the deal, guys. When you are a manager, you're still firefighting day to day. But you can still go on a vacation for 5 days and the team can run the operation. So in this stage, it can look anywhere from 5 to 20 deals a month. It depends on where you want to go with the business in terms of deal flow. And then this stage is also important to say, how much money do you have for marketing right now? And then we will create a custom plan together because in this stage, you can actually, some people stay in this stage, to be honest with you. Not everyone wants to go to full freedom. They're okay managing the day-to-day operation and they just invest more money into marketing and grow it as they go. That's okay, okay? It's whatever you want, not what I want. Now, personally, I wanted to be fully removed. I only spend like 1 hour a week in the business because I have a 5-year-old and 2-year-old. Everyone's different. My goal is to just get you to where you want to go. This is a great stage to live in, okay? You're producing consistent lead flow. You are now running more than a couple marketing channels. You're investing into the business. You're managing people while they do the work, right? We're leveraging systems, processes, and some level of infrastructure with tracking so that the business runs smoothly day to day. But guys, it's still real estate, right? Like you're still gonna be putting out fires, but at least now you can delegate those fires to the team, but you're still aligning them day to day. Now let's talk about the problems in this stage and what it could feel like. By the way, guys, every business has problems every day. So there's always gonna be problems. The problem in this stage is that you're still in the business, right? You're still managing the business. So if you're watching this and you're like, no, I wanna live in legitimate freedom, just like me, then we've got to get past this stage. So in stage 3, like I said from the previous stage, in stage 2 production, you had to start getting educated on the next exit strategy. We can't continue to put leadership in place or move on if we don't know how to now perform those exit strategies. In this stage, we have to master flipping it, wholesaling it, referring it to an agent, or maybe you are your own agent, holding it, burying it. We need to make sure if they want to sell, we're monetizing this lead. It doesn't take spending more money in marketing. It takes learning the skill on how to monetize the leads you're already spending. And what happens in our industry is too many people get caught up thinking, I'm going to double down on this channel. I'm going to hire more cold callers. I'm going to get more leads. Guys, we don't need to do that. It doesn't take that many leads to do a lot of deals. The people that say that they're being inconsistent, that are actually producing leads, it's because they're not monetizing all of the leads. So let's get really damn good in this stage at monetizing the leads, which means we have to get educated on rehabbing. We have to learn how to raise private money. We have to learn about hard money lending, right? We just got to get educated on money to fund the deals. Too many people in real estate think that they have to use their own cash. Guys, I didn't use any of my own cash to flip a house for like the first 8 years of doing flipping, okay? $0. You can do it too. A lot of people think, oh, Tiffany, it's because you know people with money. No, I didn't. I was a broke person. I grew up on the streets. Guys, your mom, dad, brother, sister, nurse, cop, teacher, they all have 401ks. Don't worry. If you've never raised money, I'll make another video on how to raise private money, because people just like you and me across the country have money sitting around that they just don't realize that they can lend, okay? So we've got to master these skill sets. These are just skill sets, which means if you don't know how to do them, it's just a knowledge gap. That's the best gap to have, by the way, because it's simple. You just got to learn, right? It's not like you got to go spend more money on another marketing channel or spend money on another thing. We have to get educated. So in this stage, let's close the gap. We need to learn how to rehab, got to learn how to wholesale, got to learn how to pass it off to agents, etc. And if you don't know how to do any of that, don't worry, we teach all of that here at Results Driven. The other thing we got to do in this stage, maybe you've never managed people, okay? I was that. And my team behind the cameras right now are probably gonna laugh when I say this, because the girl I was years ago is not the human I am today. I had to heavily invest in my ability to become a leader, because without leading people and making them tick and getting them bought into your vision, it'll be complete chaos, I promise you. I've been there. I had to press reset in my business in year 2 of flipping and wholesaling because I wasn't a good leader. So if you've never managed people before, it's okay. I have all the tools and resources for you inside of Results Driven. And don't forget to look at that hiring guide, because it'll go over how do we manage them, how do we pay them, how do we put in core values, all of that. Because in the next stage, we call it growth. Stage 4, let's move into stage 4 now, because we've now mastered those skill sets. In stage 4, we want to hire leaders. Stage 4 is all about how do I get my company in a position where now I can take a step back even more and truly scale. And again, let's go back to the comment where people think in our industry, for some reason, they glorify this word scale. And any guru that's out there like putting ads in front of you that say scale, 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 they're full of shit. You can't scale anything without systems, processes, and people, right? So let me give you an example. I have a COO and I have a sales manager in place. It wasn't until then that I could double down on another market. Once I had people in place, I launched Toledo, Ohio with the exact same systems and processes in less than a week. We had leads running, the team built in Toledo, which when I say team, I had a GC, an agent, and a runner. Because remember, I do everything virtual. From the time we lock it up to actually doing inspections to flipping a house and selling it, everything we do here is fully virtual. I haven't stepped foot in a flip in over 6 years probably. Okay, so if that doesn't tell you how systemized we are, I don't know what does. So in this stage, we can finally start to scale, which means now I can launch another market confidently and just like that, but we can't do it without other managers in place. So what I did is I put a sales manager in place to lead acquisitions, right? Because without consistent deal flow, nothing else matters. We need a revenue coming in. So our sales manager oversees both acquisitions and dispo, okay? So I have a dispo manager that you're gonna wanna hire in stage 3 to 4. You're gonna want a dispo manager. A lot of times the owner is the dispo manager. Once we get to 5+ deals a month, guys, we've got to get a dispo manager, or at least a dispo assistant in place, and that can be a virtual assistant. Everyone runs a different business, and so there isn't really a one-size-fits-all answer on when you hire that role. but it definitely has to be hired by this stage, okay? That allows me, at the time, I was running the operation and overseeing the sales manager. But in this stage, we also want to consider putting someone in operations. I have a COO. For you, it might just be an operations coordinator or someone coming in that is helping you run your marketing, do all the day-to-day movement of everything. So I have a COO, which is Josh, my husband, and then I have a sales manager that oversees acquisitions, okay? So what does that look like on the day-to-day? Let's say that deals are coming in and we don't know if we're gonna flip it, wholesale it, etc. Our sales manager gets it to an approval level, and once he says, oh, I think I'm gonna flip this and here's why, he then takes that to Josh and Josh approves it or not. What I want you to notice when I'm saying this in our org is that I'm not the one making all the decisions, okay? At this point, I'm starting to remove myself so that I can focus on bigger things like raising money, buying assets for long-term financial freedom, paying taxes or avoiding taxes, I should say, and learning how to manage money. These are all the skill sets that in this stage I finally started learning. It's all of those things that get you to a way better picture long term. But until we build that lean, mean machine with systems and processes, we can't do that. And what happens is a lot of investors in stage 1, survival, or stage 2, they try to skip all the stuff in between and they just rush to stage 4. And then the whole thing comes crashing down because they don't have all the infrastructure in place yet. And in this stage, I want you to focus on leading your leaders, right? Leading the managers and optimizing for profit and freedom. The next stage is what I call pinnacle. In order to graduate to the next stage, this is where you have to become the person that deserves the result. And to be honest, this was the hardest stage for me personally to graduate into. You're used to running 100 miles an hour, putting out fires, and even at stage 4, guys, like, I get it. Most entrepreneurs were traumatized at some point in life. So we're like used to living in this survival mindset, which is what got us to starting a company in the first place. In order to be in freedom, stage 5, pinnacle, we actually have to learn how to not be in survival mode thinking, which means you as a human being have to invest in your ability to start thinking like that. The person you were in stage 4 has to change, and you have to become a new person to live out stage 5. Stage 5 is where we're actually in what I call option freedom. Option freedom is a combination of both financial and time freedom. It's the ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, right? And this is where now we start building legacy. This is where we start building our portfolio, where we start raising private money. Those are the things now, guys, while our active income's coming in, it provides us the lifestyle to now go focus on long-term legacy. And a lot of times investors get this backwards, and I'm not a believer in that. I know there's lots of programs in there that like say you need to go buy rentals. I don't believe in that until your active income is already operating on its own to provide for your life so that now you can go focus on legacy. This is where we now are impacting other people, where we're learning how to manage money, where we're learning how to leave legacy wealth behind us, okay? And this is really a life by design. So what does it look like? You're likely doing a minimum of 7 figures in your wholesaling and flipping business. You have a lean team that's running on its own. Yes, you come into your weekly meeting. Yes, you might still be raising private money, right? I still raise private money because those are the relationships I should have at this level. Now, my team still manages the day-to-day with my lenders, but I'm the one raising the money. This is where investments in the company now works for you. You don't work for it. Okay, that's why we get into real estate. This is where I have location and time freedom. I can be in Costa Rica on the beach and my team's still operating and bringing in deals. Again, I want to keep emphasizing this because I don't want to speak for you. I want to get you to wherever you want to go. If you're like, I only want to do 3 to 5 deals a month, cool. You don't need to even make it to the stage. You'll probably be between stage 2 and 3, and that's totally cool. But if you genuinely are like, hey, I want to make 7 figures, be on a beach, and enjoy my family, you have to get to pinnacle, which requires you to do all these steps in order to get here, in the order in which I brought them up, okay? So once we have now put this in place, in pinnacle, guys, in stage 4 and stage 5, I forgot to mention that it's really important to understand how to manage your finances. A lot of investors didn't go to college to be an accountant. Right? I didn't either. Like, if you made me log into my QuickBooks and told me to book a transaction, I would laugh because I wouldn't know how to do it. I hire people to do that, right? So in stage 4 and stage 5, if you need help finding a basic bookkeeping company that does some level of fractional CFO work, Highly recommend it because most investors fall on their ass in stage 4 and stage 5 because they just simply didn't know how to manage money. And we'll never get to freedom if we don't know how to manage money. So I will put a couple recommendations in the description of a few companies that I would recommend. So if you're listening to this and you're like, my books are a mess, my finances are a mess, I don't know if I'm making money or losing money, and you're still having anxiety over that no matter what stage you're in, I'll drop a couple companies that you guys can look into and book calls with. Now, what's next, right? Like, what is after Pinnacle? Because this is the last stage. We're in freedom. This is all about you. This is where you get to decide. Do you want to build something else next? Do you want to live in freedom? Is that why you got into this? For me, I have a 5-year-old and 2-year-old. So I knew 10 years ago that I wanted to have kids. And I said, Josh, I want the option to work or not work when I wake up and I have kids. And I lived that out. I did what I said I would do. But again, in order to build something next or live in freedom, you've got to continue to keep strong management in place in your company, which requires you to be the leader that they deserve. So we've always got to be investing into ourselves and into our future. That way it gives us optionality, it leaves something long lasting, and allows us to make an impact both internally in our company and externally, right? Because guys, we can't give more to the church or a charity or anything if we're not making the money. And some people think money's the devil. When you put it in the hands of good people, now I can double my impact. And if any of this resonates with you and you want to learn how to get to the next stage of where you're at today, I have all of this covered inside of my community, and it's free. So what I'm going to do is drop the link to the community in the description, and let's continue this conversation so we can get you out of the stage you're in now and get you a little bit closer to that option freedom we all talk about.